Hello everyone, my name is Tyler and today I'll be analysing how Qantas Airways can optimise ticket pricing amid fluctuating demand and rising fuel costs. Qantas, Australia's flagship airline, operates in a highly volatile environment where jet fuel prices and consumer travel patterns constantly change. Since fuel accounts for roughly 25 to 30% of total operating expenses, sudden increases have a direct impact on profitability. At the same time, demand for air travel varies seasonally and responds to broader economic conditions, such as income levels, tourism recovery, and global disruptions. The central question at hand is how can Qantas set ticket prices optimally to balance profitability and demand under fluctuating fuel costs? To explore this, I've applied two economic frameworks, demand and supply and elasticity, and I've used three Excel-based business analytic tools, summary statistics, regression analysis, and pivot charts. Dataset and data source. For this project, I developed a proxy dataset that simulates realistic pricing and demand behavior using open access industry data. The data draws on figures from data.gov.au and the Bureau of Infrastructure and Transport Research Economics for domestic air travel volumes. I also used Qantas's annual and financial reports from 2022 to 2024 for fare averages, costs, and structure insights. I modeled monthly data from those years that included average domestic fares in AUD, the monthly passengers, average jet fuel costs in AUD per litre, and quarterly operating revenue. Where real data was unavailable, I created interpolated or simulated values consistent with historical averages, ensuring the dataset realistically reflects Qantas's operations. This allowed me to analyse how ticket prices, passenger demand, and fuel costs interact over time. Economic framework number 1, demand and supply dynamics. The first economic framework I applied was demand and supply. In the airline industry, the demand curve represents passengers willing to pay, while the supply curve reflects the airline's cost of operation, including fuel and labour. When fuel prices rise, Qantas's supply curve shifts upward, meaning higher operating costs per flight. This typically leads to higher ticket prices and reduced passenger numbers, moving the market toward a new equilibrium. From the dataset, a 20% increase in jet fuel costs corresponded with an average 9% rise in fares and a 4.5% drop in passengers. In Excel, I visualized this using a pivot chart showing a clear negative relationship between fare and passenger volume. This reflects a theoretical inverse link between price and quantity demanded. Such insights help Qantas forecast how changes in supply-side costs directly influence the market demand. Economic framework number 2, price elasticity of demand. The second framework is elasticity, which measures how sensitive demand is to changes in price. Using Excel's regression analysis, I estimated the price elasticity of demand for Qantas's domestic routes. The results showed a coefficient of negative 0.6, indicating that demand is relatively price inelastic, meaning passengers are not highly sensitive to fare increases. This makes sense because Qantas serves both business and essential travel segments, where customers often have fewer substitutes or value reliability and frequent flyer benefits over price. I illustrated this relationship using a scatter plot with a regression trend line, where the R-squared value of 0.71 suggests that 71% of the variation in demand is explained by changes in ticket price. In short, this elasticity finding implies that Qantas can raise fares moderately to offset fuel cost increases, without major losses in passenger numbers, a crucial insight for a pricing strategy. Business analytics. To complete the economic frameworks, I used three Excel analytic tools. Summary statistics that revealed an average fare of $260 per flight, meaning monthly passengers that are 2.4 million, and average fuel price of $1.14 per litre. Standard deviations highlighted the volatility of both fuel and passenger metrics. Regression analysis quantified the impact of fare changes on demand and identified elasticity. It produced clear numerical relationships between the key variables, and the pivot tables and pivot charts. They visualized trends over time, such as seasonal demand peaks and fuel price cycles, and created an interactive dashboard that links cost, price, and volume. Together, these tools allowed for both quantitative validation and visual storytelling, making it easier to see how Qantas's pricing decisions relate to the underlying economic conditions. Integration of framework and insights. By integrating economic theory and Excel analytics, several key patterns emerged. Fuel costs shift the supply curve, pushing Qantas to adjust prices. Demand is moderately inelastic, so small fare increases don't drastically reduce passengers. And the strategic pricing lags show that Qantas tends to delay fare hikes by 1 to 2 months after fuel prices rise, smoothing out volatility for customers. This combined approach helps identify an optimal pricing strategy, adjust fares incrementally in response to sustained cost changes rather than reacting immediately to short-term fluctuations. It also demonstrates how data analytics reinforces theory validating that Qantas can maintain profitability while managing consumer expectations through gradual evidence-based pricing. What the analysis reveals for business decision-making. Now, what do these findings mean for Qantas managers in practice? Revenue stability. Because demand is inelastic, Qantas can pass on some cost increases without significant demand loss while maintaining profit margins. Dynamic pricing strategy. The data analytics enables Qantas to model future price scenarios and adopt flexible fare tiers that adjust automatically with cost input. Operational forecasting. By monitoring relationships between cost and demand, Qantas can better plan capacity hedging strategies and promotional campaigns. Customer retention. By maintaining gradual pricing adjustments, it builds consumer trust while sustaining profitability, a delicate balance in a competitive market that has a massive outcome on their customers. In essence, this integration of data and economic insight provides a roadmap for evidence-based decision-making that supports both financial health and customer loyalty. In conclusion, this project highlights how combining economic frameworks with analytic tools can solve real-world business challenges. By applying demand and supply and elastic frameworks, supported by Excel analytics, such as regression, summary statistics, and pivot charts, I've shown how Qantas can optimize pricing in the face of volatile costs and demand. From an employability perspective, this project strengthens my ability to interpret data, apply economic theory, and generate actionable insights. Key skills for roles in the future, such as if I wanted to be a revenue analyst, a business intelligence officer, or an economic consultant. These skills demonstrated not only technical competence, but also strategic thinking, essential for making data-driven decisions in today's fast-changing business landscape. Thank you for listening.